So consider this. At least when it comes to visual novels, I don't mind lollies. Now, I see the comments already. Please die. Child porn is bad. I actually fully agree with you that lollies are the best because not only are their flat chests extremely appealing, but their younger appeal also factors into their greatness because stop. Before we get into it, though, let's do a brief history lesson. The term lolly comes from a 67-year-old Russian book named Lolita that follows Humbert, who is obsessed with the 12-year-old that he eventually sexually molests after becoming her stepfather. So we're off to a pretty bad start. Apparently, the book is actually pretty good, but that's not important. What is important is that the term had a negative origin. The word didn't actually become commonplace in the Japanese language until the 70s, and from what I can gather from Wikipedia, it didn't seem to carry too negative of a meaning, and was used more to describe specific works amongst otaku culture. I mean, normal people were probably afraid that younger girls were becoming obsessed upon by otakus, but in general, most probably didn't think too much of it. And then someone decided to kidnap, rape, and murder a bunch of young girls, so that slowed things down, but it had another boom in popularity, and here we are today. Now, the first thing we have to get through is the term itself. The term is used by a fictional sexual predator, which is attached to his obsession with young girls. However, I think the term has evolved past that point. People aren't calling characters lollies because they are attracted to them. People are calling characters lollies just because they are young characters. One could probably argue that's the difference between lolly and lolita, but when I hear the word lolita, I think of the fashion, which I think is a different thing entirely and perfectly okay. Strictly speaking, I have liked non-romance lolly roads, specifically involving little sisters. I think a sibling relationship can make for an interesting story, and I'd like to see more of them. But would that count? According to Wikipedia, a lolly is a young-looking girl character in Japanese media, so in that regard, it counts. But you also may not count that if you only consider romanceable lollies. So let's just assume either little sister lollies don't count or they're safe. They're not always safe, such as the case with Wonderful Everyday, which I really don't want to get into, but they're pretty safe. Now when it comes to lolly heroines, it's a bit harder to justify them. On one hand, if taken in the context of the story, the age gap probably wouldn't be too large. Of course, ignoring the fact that we're already told everyone is quote-unquote 18, and might even make some sense. But on the other hand, we have to take into consideration the people who write this story and consume it, who would vary in age from young to quite old. Again, I don't care what people do with their free time at the end of the day, but it is something to consider. And just as the consumers of lolly content may vary in age, so do the lollies. I think in most scenarios it's not unfair to call a girl who looks 17 years of age or younger a lolly, but as a lolly is mostly defined by appearance, it is much less common that they would look like a 17-year-old girl, as their appearance may not be very lolly-like in the general sense, which then comes the big question. Is it important for the lolly to look young or childlike? And I think in general, the answer is a bit of both. If you're looking to play a visual novel just to romance someone who looks 12 years old, then I can't really agree with you on that front. Lollies are a bit of a touchy subject, especially to those outside the weeb influence, and understandably so. It does no one any good when we obsess and fetishize lollies, and anyone who does so makes us look less like weebs and more like Humberts. But, and it's much bigger than a lolly but, if you're looking to experience a character's story, their hardships, motivations, and explore the depth of their character, then I think it's okay. I'm not gonna lie and say I don't play visual novels for romance roads, but a visual novel has to do more than that for me. It has to pull me into its world of interesting characters and inspire me to learn more about them. As a recent example, If My Heart Had Wings, Kotori's route was an amazing romance route, and following that, I wanted to learn more about each of the other characters, such as Asa and Yoru's situation, since there seemed to be some mystery behind it. The fact that there is also romance is mostly due to the expectations of the medium itself, as well as the audience. But that's not my problem if you enjoy that stuff either. I won't stop you from hoarding a collection of lolly pics on your computer, but please name the folder Economics Textbooks, hide it in the documents, password protect your PC, and for the love of God, please don't end up on the news. At the end of the day though, that's just my opinion. Whilst it avoids being clear one way or the other, I can't really lie and say I completely support them, nor say I completely hate them. But if anything, lolly routes do tend to be well liked by me, despite the fact I skip over the 18+ content. Does this opinion make me a bad person? Maybe? I'd like to think it's a lot better than those who are a bit too into the lolly boom, but I can't say I'm against it either. So feel free to judge my character based on that, or perhaps tell me what you think of lollies. Truly, I'm curious, because lollies always perplex me, even before being enticed into Japanese media, and even after reading over 50 visual novels and watching many anime, I still am not confident in how I feel about them. Subscribe if you want to see me talk about Hello Lady on Friday, or dislike the video and DM me on Twitter hateful things if you don't. Goodbye.